Greetings. All right, Mr. Heath is primed and ready. I don't know who else is in here. I hope we get more than one. Sorry it took me a minute. I had to put on my warm socks because it got down to 70 degrees tonight, so chilly. I had to go find my warm socks. So, I have been working on Allie in the last several streams. I think that I'm going to put her down for a little bit. Live video. I'm not sure what that means. I am live, right? Anyway, I was working on Allie. I want to continue to work on her. She is, she is quite an enjoyable model to work on. But I really need to get some progress on these Malifaux models, especially if I'm going to stream a couple days this week, because I don't have that many painting days each week, so I need to make some progress. He was 20. Where do you live, Miss Heath? I mean, you know, obviously you don't have to give me an address, but roughly, where do you live? There we go. Sorry, I was having a hard time seeing my computer screen. The brightness was way down. I couldn't actually see what I was doing. Minnesota. That's way up there, man. I don't know if you're a football fan, but I'm sorry about what happened to your Vikings, man. I hate to bring it up, but I was rooting for them. Yeah. Yep. I have a buddy of mine out here that I work with who's from Minnesota. He's like, I would never move back. It gets so cold. So these are some of the models that I've been working on for the Malifaux crew, and this one was particularly fun. I was wanting to add some diversity into the group. Hey, what's up, Zach? And I have a infinity group, or not like a group of players, but a group of models. The Haq Islam biker group that I was actually going to do up in a Day of the Dead theme. You know, do sugar skull paint jobs like this, lots of flowers on everything, have the bikes all decorated up with sugar skulls and things like that. I had never got around to doing that, at least not yet. Other projects kept getting in the way. So I just thought that her position, the dress that she's wearing, the shoes that she's wearing, she was giving off like kind of a Hispanic dancer vibe. to me. So since she's a performer going on stage, I thought, you know, just go the whole 9 yards, give her the face makeup. I started off just painting everything black, and then I was thinking what would look good with the Day of the Dead theme, so I decided to do the roses on the thing. It's hard to tell how small this model is. Like, there's my thumb. So I was having a hard time getting the roses to be super what I wanted them to be, so I really just ended up giving more of an impression of different petals and things on there. But I think it turned out pretty well. So I'm happy with how she's coming out. Hopefully I can finish her tonight. Maybe not on stream, but by the time I go to bed tonight. Thanks. This is the other guy I've been putting some time into. This is Carlos Vasquez. So he's kind of part of the same group, or at least he's maybe like a free agent they can bring. I'm not totally sure how the rules for the squads work there, the crews. The back tattoo, I must admit, was inspired by my friend Jimmy Macias, who has Macias tattooed across his back in a very similar way. I just always thought it looked kind of cool. So I was inspired by him for this. So I'm working on him. His head just looks like a Ken doll right now. There's not too much definition on the hair. I got to touch up the eyes a little bit, work on his mouth some. He's got a sash that I have to do, but his pants are done. Got to work on his shoes and his flame that he's circling around him. Be working on that tonight. Angelica is one of the, I think she's kind of like a second in command. The girl with the sword is the other second in command. I think you have an option between the two of them. I think that's how the rules work. So I've got her skin and her eyes done. Need to go in and do her lips and then start working on her clothing. Probably won't get to her tonight. I'm trying to finish those other two. And then I'm working on the Coryphee, which are kind of like the mannequins that I finished, but they are much nastier in combat. They got some kind of cool rule where they can be together on the same base, and like they're a pretty powerful model, and then they can separate and be off by themselves and then recombine and things like that. So there's a special base that's coming in the mail for me that'll allow them to detach and reattach. So the Malifaux are for somebody. So they're a commission job. I wasn't, I don't always take a lot of commissions. But as I was showing, I will get back to your question, Zach. I'll finish my thought before I. So I don't always do a lot of commissions, but I had painted the Malifaux first edition showgirls like I showed on my stream last time. And I always really wanted to paint the second edition ones because I thought the models were better. And I wanted to try out things that I had been learning as I went through and talked about some of the things that I had noticed that I wanted to work on and improve. I wanted to try it out, see where I was at in my painting to be able to compare at least similar types of models to each other. So I had bought the Smoke and Mirrors crew set. So that's basically everything except the things I just all showed you. So the mechanical doves and Colette, Cassandra, the two performers and the two mannequins. So that's that box set. And I had already bought those and I was going to paint them myself anyway. So when this guy contacted me, he actually purchased all of those old first edition showgirls, and then he wanted me to paint an entire new squad from scratch for him. And since I already wanted to paint them anyway, it worked out for both of us. So I'm working on that. Carlos's flames. Yeah, I did some gap filling, so it's kind of hard to see, but I'm pretty sure that there's a break. So there's a break right here. And then there's a break I thought there were 2 breaks. I think it's here. So I think the flame that's in his left hand, I think it's 3 pieces, if I remember correctly. So it is, I'll let her know, Heath. She doesn't really mind. It's just, I always hate if she feels like she has to go off and be stuck in the back room of the house or something and not making noise. I told her she should come on and be my co-host. She said maybe one day she'll do that. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that's 3 pieces if I remember correctly. From the inside, it sure looks like there's a break here, but if that's the case, I did a much better job in gap filling than I usually do because I can't see the break in there, but I seem to recall it being 3 pieces. Yeah, just sometimes, my brain goes off in a million different directions. I find if I actually say out loud that I'm going to come back to something, it helps to remind me to do it. So it was more for me than for you, honestly. So yeah. So let's actually do some painting, guys. What do you say? Oh, I'm just going to go ahead and do this, even though there's only 2 of you in stream right now. But I said the next time I streamed, I had a big surprise to share with you. And it's one of the reasons why I really want to work on the Malifaux models tonight, as opposed to working more on Alley. And I'm going to move over to my computer for this. All right, so you guys might be familiar with a little company called Atlantis Miniatures. They're the people who made the Etten model, so that 2-headed giant that I did all the tattoos all over. They also did the troll, like the big bulky blue troll with the club that I painted, and I did kind of like the thicker like spots and darker back flesh, and then I did some like paler skin, and I donated that to the Nova Open Charitable Foundation last year for their charity raffle. Well, I've been in contact with the owner of Atlantis quite a bit over the last couple of years, in terms of reaching out to him and letting him use my pictures and just chatting with him, and so we kind of struck up a friendship in that regard. But he has approached me and hired me to actually do some official artwork for Atlantis Miniatures. So I think ultimately the goal is to have these models be box art for them, because he's eventually wanting to have his models in stores. But for the time being, it'll be promotional stuff, so for ads and on his website and things like that. He's also going to be taking these models around to different conventions where he's going to be trying to sell his stuff in person. So these will be like the showcase models for the company. So I was going to run through a few of them. So it's from his. How did I turn the? There we go. So it's from the dwarf line that's going to be shipping here in a couple months. So I'm going to be painting 3 of these male warriors. If I remember correctly, it's V1 and V2 and V9 from the males. It's going to include the Brewmaster, the Beer Maiden, V1, V2, and V10 of the female dwarf warriors, the Scribe, this dwarf troll hunter, and I think a couple other miscellaneous models. But I'm super excited to get to work on that. And he just shipped those models to me today from England, so they'll take a couple weeks to get to me. But I want to make sure that I get this Malifaux commission done prior to those models showing up, so I can get those done and to him as quickly as possible. The other thing, thanks guys. Yeah, I'm super excited. These dwarves are so characterful and just really well sculpted and really well conceived, and I can't be more excited for this. So that's going to be awesome. I planned, once I get them, I'll probably do some the female man for me. I've told her about that. I said I'm going to get her on stream one of these days. I promise. I'll probably paint some of them on stream, so I'll probably work some on stream, and I don't want to give away too much, but there's even some possibility that there might be some other things going along with those models. At the very least, I promised Dan, the guy who owns Atlantis Miniatures, that I was going to do some official tutorials for those models, so those would be written with pictures, but there might be some other cool stuff that's going to come along with those models. So that's exciting news, but it also means that I can't dilly-dally too much, and I got to get these Malifaux models done off my table. He's not here. I don't think he's in chat because he hasn't said anything yet. Pact Team, if you see him on chat, he also hired me to do a commission for him. I'm going to be painting a Redemptor Dreadnought for him in kind of a cool custom color scheme with a lot of freehand and things on it. And he agreed to push his commission back so I can do the Atlantis Miniatures stuff first for them. So if you see Pack Team, big shout out to him. I really appreciate him being flexible with me and letting me take advantage of this opportunity. So if you're listening later, Pack Team, thank you again. And now let's actually get to some painting. Only 20 minutes into the stream and I haven't picked up a paintbrush yet. All right, I'm going to start off and work on the performer. So right now, what I've got, I'm going to leave her top just kind of the slightly highlighted black. I just think it looks really good with the skirt with the roses. I'm going to do something with the trim. I haven't completely decided what yet. And then her hair is going to get some highlights too. It's going to be mostly kind of a dark black or brown. Before I ended my last session, I was working on her arm, these sleeve things that she's got, and I did the base coat in sort of the P3 Murderous Magenta, so this kind of fuchsia color, and then working with the GW Emperor's Children pink. Mix some of that into it and then eventually mix some white into it to get the top. But what I want to do now is I don't want it to be quite that pink, and I want to start to blend the transitions in between. So I'm going to just start doing some glazing passes. I don't get to keep the models because he's going to be taking them around to conventions and things like that and showing them off. So he'll have them on display at his booth at different conventions where he's going to be selling the model. So I have to send them in to him, but sorry, my cat is pushing on the lid of my laptop. Sancho. I swear we will get to some painting here. I wasn't totally prepared to stream tonight, so forgive me for taking a little bit here to get started. Actually want this to go just a hair purple. So my favorite color, one of my favorite colors at the moment, Sunset Purple from Scale 75. Add just a little touch of that. Everybody have a good day today? Mine was long. One of the parts of my job is to do professional development for teachers, for math teachers. I had a half-day workshop, but the location was in Tullison, which is about 120-mile round trip from my house. And the drive home is through rush hour traffic. It's basically on the opposite side of the Phoenix metro region. So I have to drive on about, 4 different freeways to get home from there. So anytime there's any traffic or accident on any of the freeways, I get to experience all of it when I'm out there. So it's like an hour and a half drive home through traffic. Luckily, I got to leave. I got out of there a little quicker than I sometimes do. Didn't have anybody waiting to talk to me afterwards. So I got out before the worst of the traffic really built up. Sometimes it can take me 2 or 2.5 hours to get home from out there. But I'm home now, I'm all fed. Cats are fed. Well, congratulations, Heath. I hope that was a exciting change for you. That was a good move for you and your family. Hey, Cass, what's up? Not doing too bad. I just made the I can imagine, Zach. That's crazy. I just made the announcement, Cass, that I was teasing on my that's awesome, you got your 000. I made the announcement that I was teasing on my Twitter account that Atlantis Miniatures, a miniature company that Josh talks about sometimes, and they manufacture that Etten, the big 2-headed giant that I put all the tattoos on and some of those other things, that they hired me to do some official company paint jobs for them. So might be used on their box art. They're going to take the models around to conventions and show people the painted models to sell their goods and things like that. So that was exciting. I found out that for sure a couple days ago. Probably paint some of those models on stream coming up. Once I get them, they're coming from England. Yeah, thanks. But that's also why I'm not working on that other model tonight. I really got to finish these Malifaux models before those Atlantis miniatures come in. So I'll probably get back to her on Sunday. I'll work on her on my Sunday stream, my regular Sunday stream. And the next couple nights, I need to work on these Malifaux models. It's great to hear, Heath. I guess I can also make another announcement. So I also posted this on Twitter, and I copied Jake and stuff on it. But I've been trying to track down some people to do some occasional co-hosting for me. Kind of serve the role of the notorious JFP. Sit here and run some of the conversation, keep you guys more entertained, keep an eye on chat and that kind of stuff for me. And so I've talked to 3 different people that I think would be really good at it. And at least 2 of the 3 seem really, really excited. And in fact, the first one has already promised that he'll come on the Sunday stream a week from this coming Sunday. So February 4th, I believe it is, that he will be on that Sunday stream. So that'll be fun. I'm eager to introduce you guys to him and him to you guys. He's a really fun guy. Big time Magic player. Dabbled in some tabletop gaming for a while, and he's become a pretty good friend of mine. We play a lot of board games and things like that together, and so that'll be a fun day when he comes in, and hopefully he'll have a good time, and you guys can all help convince him to come back and make it a regular thing for him to have him on every so often. The other guy who seems really, really eager to join me, I actually already mentioned him once this stream. Jimmy, the guy whose back tattoo is what inspired me to do the back tattoo on Carlos over here. He really wants to come and on stream too, and he's a pretty good painter as well. He focuses more on painting armies and things like that rather than more display quality stuff, but he's definitely a decent painter. He's been the manager of at least three different game stores over the course of his life. So very, very well versed in the hobby, knows his stuff. Really fun guy to talk to. So we haven't figured out exactly when I'll get him on yet, but he's already said he wants to, and might be fun to get him painting in front of the camera some too. Give me a chance to just sit down and talk to you guys while he's painting. So did you get a chance to try out your new brush yet, Cass, or is it just sitting there just glowing with anticipation of being used? Understand. You gotta be sensible about those things. How was the live sneak attack stream you last Sunday? Is that a good time? Zach, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't even know what you're talking about. I don't know what the Rising Sun Kickstarter is. You can throw things at me virtually. Thanks for stopping by, Cass. I'm going to try to stream tomorrow night too. So if I do, hopefully you can make more of it, since I know you had mentioned you prefer Thursday. So hopefully I'll see you tomorrow night. Otherwise, maybe I'll see you on Sunday. Did you say you were working on Tiamat tonight, Zach? I think you said that. You ever gonna finish that model? I swear. And the models are just fantastic. I tell you what, there are several models. One of these days I should I could do a whole stream on my cabinet of shame, all the models I have that I haven't painted. I have some models that I look at and I get so excited to paint, and then when it actually comes time to choosing the next model, I chicken out and I don't start them because I'm worried about how long they're going to take me. I love to paint so much, but I really love to finish models. Get to that final stage where you finish the last color and get everything done. And some of these projects that might take me 5 months to do scare me. Yeah, I'm eager to see what those look like. All right, so I've got the pink to about where I want it. So you can see based on earlier, so the top is still lighter than the bottom, but I've got a nicer transition between the two. There's not such a harsh color transition. I'm going to shade underneath a little bit. I wouldn't call myself a fan. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I don't really follow Penny Arcade that closely. Now, it's possible that you were wondering what I am doing right now, because I just took green and added it to hot pink. So if you combine two complementary colors together, they start to cancel each other out color-wise, and they therefore mute each other. So the pink/purple that I was working on was a very cool purple. The complementary color to that is a warmer green. Or something close to that at least. So add a little bit of that. It knocks down the brightness of the color. Starts to make it good for creating shadows and depth. I'll have to see what game that is that you're talking about. Yeah, so sometimes you learn. Oh shoot! Sometimes you learn a lot about what commissions you're never going to accept again by actually doing commissions. I did. I've done a few full armies in the past, and while they are not that fun, I did a Skaven army one time. And I tell you what, that disavowed me of ever painting a full army of anything for somebody else ever again. Tedious, tedious, tedious. And the problem with bigger models, I'm sure you're talking about, Zach, it's really hard to make it worth your time to work on them. And I've heard some nightmare stories of the Reaper Bones material. Things like it doesn't accept primer well. The primer gets gummy, like a weird gummy texture to it. It's a pretty soft plastic, so the details are all kind of, soft and mushy. Basically, they're cheap, and that's about the best thing you can say for them. But I don't know. I've not worked with the material myself. Yeah, that Wolf and Girl model that I finished. Actually, the guy Gray, who's going to be on in about a week and a half, who's going to co-host with me, he's the guy I painted the Wolf and Girl for. So you guys can ask him all about that and where he's currently storing it and all that stuff. I'll check that out later. Keith, thanks for sharing the link. But yeah, that Wolf and Girl model was really heavy and really awkward to paint. And while she was a resin material, so she held the paint and stuff wasn't rubbing off too badly, but man, it was just, my neck and back and shoulders hurt so bad from having to hold it in a really awkward way and paint it. I couldn't like sort of do my normal painting position. It was very, very cumbersome. So I'm just putting a lot of thin layers. My paint is very thin. Moving my brush in the direction of the shadows, just pulling that pigment into where I want the shade. Just build those shadows up over several passes. Get a nice soft transition. I'll do 1 or 2 more passes and then that'll be done. A fantasy Boy Scout world? What does that exactly mean? Is it like Boy Scouts out camping in the middle of woods that have fantasy creatures and things like that? All right. I am really liking where this is right now. It's kind of like a wash, but the thing with washes is they're not really made from paint. So I made this from just watered down paint as opposed to the wash consistency, which is more like well, it doesn't have all the acrylic medium and all that stuff in it. It's really more of just like pigment and something the pigment's dissolved into. I'm not a chemist, but it seems something like that. The thing with washes is that you tend to put them on pretty heavy and you let them pool. And so where you get the shadowing is as you run it all over, they just naturally are very viscous and they just want to run down into all the cracks and gather there. And you can even kind of dab off the stuff that's not down in the cracks if you want to. But their purpose is to actually create the shade for you just by where it collects when it runs on the model. The thing is that they're not super easy to control. So if you're doing some pinpoint precise shading, washes are harder to control, and they don't really create the same transitions from one color to the next because they're not as thick. Like they don't help to really cover up the paint that's below them. They just sort of tint it all and then make the shadows really dark. So I prefer to have really precise control over where my shadows are going and to help to create a blend between the layers and a nicer transition. So it's really just very, very thin paint applied in multiple layers without too much on your brush. You'll notice I tap my paper towel a lot with my brush. After I get something on it, I come over here, I tap my paper towel. It pulls off most of the paint so that I'm barely putting any on the model. There's just not much there. I noticed I got some pink on her hair the other night that I didn't fix. And I kind of clean up a couple lines on her feet, like where her feet meet her shoes that You've been painting any more miniatures, Heath? Well, that sounds really cool. Sounds different and unique, which is important, I think, in a game. I'm going to work on our shoes a little bit. You know, highlighting black is a very tricky thing. Cool. Do you ever share any of your woodworking projects online? Like on Twitter or something? I'd love to see some stuff of what you're working on. But yeah, highlighting black is tricky. I've done some on her. I'm about to use some similar techniques on her shoes. So one of the tricky things is that really as you highlight black, black's the darkest color. So when you lighten it, no matter what you try to do to lighten it, it starts to go really gray. And you can put blue in there and you can do some other things, but ultimately you're changing the black into gray. But if you wanted it gray, you would probably just have painted it gray. So how do you do both? So one of the tricks is, much like a lot of the other things you've seen me do, like the flesh tones on Alley and stuff like that, is to build up some of the texture and the layers, or even just this girl's sleeves. You build up those textures and layers with the lighter color, then you go back over and glaze it with the darker color, pulling towards the shadows. And you kind of re-tint all the color towards black, but leaving the color gradation underneath it. You can do this with any colors. It works really well with anything. The colors it's like really, really made for, this technique it's fantastic, is reds. Because the problem with reds is once you get to a nice, like blood red color, once you get to about, even that's a little, once you get to like this, trying to go any lighter than this, either turns it to orange or it turns it to pink. But again, if you want red, you don't want it to be orange or pink. So you let it go to orange or pink, you just highlight up whatever you need, and then you go back and use glazes to retint it to red. Cool, I'll have to go back and look some. So yeah, right now I used this to start sketching out where these higher points are. I'm going to start adding some white to this. awesome, Zach, but I understand the feeling of having great plans and wondering if you're ever going to get to them. Like I was telling you about that, or I was mentioning at the beginning of the stream about how this idea for the Day of the Dead model actually came from having a group of infinity models that I was going to paint as just a big biker gang that was themed off of the Day of the Dead. And I bought those models probably 3 or 4 years ago and assembled them, primed them. And they've just sat in my cabinet since then. I haven't actually touched them. So I guess, you could look at it as this is like a test model for them. Yeah, that's it. I don't know. We'll see if I ever get around to them. But that should work really well with doing what you described, the pre-shading with the green, because then when you filter the red over, the green spots are going to become really, really good shadows for you. Do you know what show I'm binging right now, which I'm enjoying way more than I thought I would? It's on Netflix. Jerry Seinfeld made a show called Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee. And they're just like little 15-minute episodes. Where he goes around, he just like picks up a celebrity, like Kristen Wiig or John Oliver, people like that. And they just drive around and chit-chat, and eventually they ended up at a cafe. And they just sit there and they talk over coffee. But it's pretty entertaining. Exactly. Nothing happens. They just sit around over coffee and talk. That's very insightful. It's just with a different cast every episode instead of the same cast. Although the one I just watched he actually picked up Michael Richards and they went out for coffee. So it was Jerry and Kramer out drinking coffee. Which would have been really funny to see in real life. You would have thought, like wondering if you were living in a bizarro world or something where you were actually on an episode of, or watching Seinfeld in real life. One of the funny kind of shticks with the show is he picks each person up in a different car. And he picks the car based on the person he's about to pick up. So like he'll pick a car, and then when he picks up the person, he's like, I picked this car because it reminds me of you for this reason. So it's like different sports cars. One person he picked up in an old station wagon. Another he picks up in an old rusty VW bus. So that's kind of one of the funny things. In the Aziz Ansariya episode, he drove a giant tour bus. All right, I'm going to go one more. Yeah, he's, I mean, from what I understand from this show, he's a huge car guy. Collects a lot of cars. I don't think he's like on the Jay Leno level of being a car guy, but it sounds like he owns quite a few cars. I mean, when you're as rich as him, you gotta do something with your money, I suppose, huh? All right, so I've got the shoes kind of highlighted up some, but I don't want them to really end up that gray. So I'm going to go back and glaze over them with the black, moving towards the shadows. I just want really, and I'm not even really trying to make them like shiny patent leather or anything. I really just want a little bit of subtle variation in the black, so they're not just a solid black, so that looks like there's some three dimension. Yet I can't talk tonight. It's been a long day. Some three-dimensionality to them. All right, I've already got black. This will do. I actually prefer to glaze with the flat black. This is the decay black, but this works. We'll make it work. Got really excited. I got a message from DHL, and I thought my Warfront paints were finally coming. I was getting a package today, but it wasn't them, it was something else. So I still don't know where those are. contacted Scale about him. They said they've been experiencing huge shipping delays to the U.S. probably because of all the weather. So should be here soon. Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever seen his garage? I mean, I'm sure you probably have, but the number of cars Jay Leno owns is like, it's almost like he owns a car dealership, but he just owns all the cars. I can't even fathom like what the cost to maintain, not just buy, but like maintain that collection. All right, Zach, quiz time for you. Thought up a fun topic of discussion. You got to go first. I don't even know what my answer would be for this, but you have to paint a model, and you can only use black, white, and one other color. And you can mix them all together. You can do different mixtures of them, but black, white, and one other color to paint a model. Which color do you choose? And I'm talking like specific, like brand and name of the color. Secret Weapon Orange Rust. I actually I've never seen that color in person. I've never ordered the Secret Weapon stuff, and none of the game stores around here carry it. I have to think more about the exact color. Yeah, I think it would depend on the model, but I'm just kind of shooting from the hip here. Certainly, if you were painting like a paladin or something, maybe the orange rust wouldn't be the right color. I was more thinking, just getting a gauge on what he thinks the most versatile color out there might be. Are those Citadel colors? Because I don't own a lot of the new Citadel colors either. I know for a painter, I don't seem to know my paints very much. I think that I don't really know the exact color. Let me look. But for me, I think I would pick something like in a greenish blue. Maybe something like something along the lines of this, like bearing blue. Only because, so it's it's kind of a lighter color on its own. If you add white to it, it's going to go pretty pastel. If you add black to it, it's going to start to desaturate and become something closer to like this color. And then if you, after adding black to it, you then add white, I think that you'll get a lot of different interesting colors out of using something like that. I don't know, that's my gut instinct. Yeah, and it probably depends a little bit if, this is now maybe cheating a little bit, but if you can choose your blacks and whites and they're not like a neutral. So if you can pick a black that actually has a little undertone to it, like some blacks have a little green undertone, or if you pick a black that has a little bit of an undertone, then you might even get some more interesting variations. All right, so I finished your shoes. So there's just a little bit of variation on the high points and the low points. Again, nothing crazy, but it just keeps them from being super boring. Let's work on our hair. When I'm doing black hair, yeah, coal black and ivory would be a good combination. Now, you have to convince somebody that coal black is actually black and ivory is actually white, right? But yeah. Now the next, maybe the most interesting question is, if you're not allowed to just automatically get black and white, but you just pick any three paints, but you can only paint with those three paints, I wonder what three I would pick. I'm getting off topic of what I was going to say. I like to add dark blue to my blacks for hair. Add some navy blue. I'm sorry, I missed your thing earlier. Jay Leno has a working Model T. That's bananas. One of the episodes, they were in the parking lot and a truck driver, of the Jerry Seinfeld thing. Truck driver called him over and wanted to talk to him, just meet him. He was showing off his big rig. And he said that the big rigs have a large enough fuel tank that they could drive for 48 hours without refueling. And furthermore, that those big 18-wheelers can drive for over 1 million miles. Like the lifespan of the trucks is like over 1 million miles. That's crazy to me. it actually, it kind of works. You sort of need like usually you sort of need a black and a brown, or a black and a white also to make it work. Because otherwise you can't get the various like shades of each of those colors. So you can get different hues, but you can't really like make them lighter or darker. But there are miniature painters who use heavy body acrylics. So just, actually I have one. I use the titanium white from time to time for my white. So they just get this, and they have a white, they have a black, they have, it's almost like a printer, you know, they have their cyan and magenta and whatever, and they mix all colors from scratch. And that's pretty crazy. But even so, Mr. Heath, you'd also have to decide which blue, red, and yellow you want. And I certainly have some favorite blues and favorite reds and favorite yellows. I don't know how well they would mix together though, or what colors would come out. It'd be a fun challenge one time though, to just force myself to paint to only pick 3 colors, and then maybe allow myself white and black, but only pick 3 paints, and everything has to be mixed from those 3 paints in black and white. I really like this blue I made here, this dark teal. I think I actually made it too blue for the hair, but it's a really pretty color. We'll see. Actually realizing I probably should have done more of a brownish than a bluish. I don't know. She's got a lot of cool colors on her, so probably the cooler hair actually was probably the right idea, but yeah, I almost want to write down what I did for this to make this blue and go and use it on another model. Sorry I keep going out of camera shot. Should be better. Thanks for letting me know, Zach. I heard they came out with some new colors, but I actually never really followed up and saw what they were. I'll have to go check those out. You made a D&D battle map too. Like, did you make it? You said it looks like faux wood. Like, did you make it out of wood, or did you paint like a mailing tube to look like wood? Yeah, I do like P3's paints. In general, I like them a lot better than Citadel's paints in terms of how they perform. They're also cheaper by volume than Citadel, which is nice. Still have to put them in dropper bottles though, because those containers kind of suck. Is that you? Hey, hey. Everybody say hi to my wife. It apparently is Mr. Heath, and I didn't know she had a Twitch account, but now she does, apparently. This is where you guys all ask her to come in from the other room and get on stream. Or maybe just plant the seed that she's welcome on a future stream. Blues Light Painting is Zach, in case you didn't know that. Josh! What's up? He popped in just in time. Or maybe he's just been... oh yeah, there I see it. I made it. What's up, Josh? You got here just in time. My wife just made her first posts on Twitch. She just made her account, apparently. So you missed it a little bit earlier, Josh. I made the announcement that that Atlantis Miniatures was hiring me to do some painting for them. So I was letting everybody know. I know I actually kind of told you the other day, but I let the world know. So the cat is out of the bag with regard to that. I also, a friend of mine promised that he would come over on the February 4th, I think the date is this, whatever Sunday is right around there. And he's going to co-host with me that day. So I've got at least one person to agree to co-host one time. So we'll see how that goes. He's a fun guy to hang around with, so I'm sure he'll be good. Oh, thanks, man. But I was telling them that the reason I'm not working on Alley tonight and I'm working on these Malifaux models is because I kind of need to get them done and off of my painting table for when the Atlantis Miniatures guys show up. So I'm going to keep working on these guys during the week. I'll do Alley. Keep working on Alley. Probably on my Sunday streams. So I'll work on her this Sunday. But all right, this might be too blue. Pretty sure it is too blue, but we're going to do it anyway. Exactly. We will make it a thing. We'll become the new standard. But I can't take credit for it. It was your invention. But if you stole it from somebody else, then you should just take credit yourself. You don't have to pass the praise down the chain. Yeah. Unless you can change it to some other set of faces, but I don't know if you have to be a Twitch Prime for that. So I do a couple things. First of all, I varnish the models when I'm done painting them. So that puts a protective coating over the paint. So that helps a lot. And then I take like the small bubble wrap and I cut it into about 10 to 12 inches long and 2 inches thick. And then I just like carefully wrap the very delicate parts until it sort of starts to form a ball, and then I wrap larger pieces around that. So I'm sure they're kind of tough for people to unwrap, but everything is super protected and doesn't rattle around in the box. It's all in a cocoon of bubble wrap. Actually, I know they're a little bit hard to unwrap because I watched the video of Zach unwrapping his model. But they get there safe. By the way, Josh Cass was on here earlier, and she was super excited because her 000 brush came in the mail today. She can't wait to try it out. Probably true. I might look into that. All right. Oh, I got to do the hem on her skirt. I still don't know quite what I'm doing with that. But all right, getting up close and personal. Zoom that out just a little bit. See you, Zach. Thanks for stopping by. There we go. You can see more of the model. There she is with her Day of the Dead face paint. I got the arms all. Oh, there's another thing I got. She's got bracelets I gotta paint. Dress is all done. Hair is highlighted. She's getting pretty close. Oh yeah, I also forgot I was gonna, after talking to my wife last night about this model, maybe it was 2 days ago, I'm gonna see if I can make a convincing black nail polish on her fingers. Without ruining the skin. I have a piece of wood on the top of the table. This thing. This is a, it's just a 12 by 12 inch floor tile. It used to be solid black, but over the years paint has spilled on it multiple times, and I've tested colors on it and things like that. So it's got quite a bit of paint built up to it. I just bought it at Home Depot a long time ago when I was first starting to paint. And I've since looked for just the 12 by 12 inch just solid black like this, and I haven't been able to find it at the hardware store since then. I just got all sorts of fancy patterns and textures and things. I just want the smooth black tile. It's mostly just to give me a solid surface to put everything down on. Protects the stuff underneath, so when paint spills, it goes on something that I don't care about. There are some people who use a tile and they actually mix all of their paints right on the tile, rather than using like something like this. You just mix it all right straight on the tile, almost as if it's a wet palette, but it's obviously not wet, so the paint doesn't. I don't really know what the benefit of it is, but some people do that. Did you see the question to you, sweetie? Did you want me to paint the model's nails black or my own nails black? It's kind of one of those things. I really would like one, but I haven't had such an urge to go way out of my way. It's more just, when I'm at the hardware store for other purposes, I'll take a look in the tile section and they don't seem to have one. But that's probably a good idea to just go to an actual tile store. I know where one is. It's just a matter of the next time I drive over there, that area. All right, here we go, deep breaths. You might not even be able to see this because it's just going to darken the end of the finger and it might look like the finger just ends earlier. My what? My hair? Gosh, come on, chat. You're supposed to stop me from doing silly things like this. Yell at me when my hair's in the camera. Not bad. I will have to zoom up to show you guys in a second. take it. So not bad. I think it does actually look like her nails are painted black. And doing little details like that is why I am the slowest painter on the face of the earth. All right, finish off the bracelets. Thanks, Heath. I do too. I think it turned out well. I really love doing details on a model that reward closer inspection. You know, it's one thing for people to paint models that look good from a couple feet away, you know, on the table or something like that. It's another thing to paint models that look good when you hold them up close, and then even another thing to paint models that really require somebody to sit there and stare at the model for 30 seconds before they start to see all the, you know, some of the cool details that you've painted in. That's what I really love. I love watching somebody looking at my model, admiring it, and then seeing that reaction when they go, oh my gosh, you actually did. And then they pick out some detail on the model. Sorry, I'm very quiet tonight. I don't know what to talk to you guys about. Any stories you want me to tell, or any questions you have? I'm literally just painting some gray onto the bracelets. Didn't really want to go, I decided to go more of like a silver color to them, because gold didn't really seem to work with the rest of the paint scheme. Still don't know what I'm going to do with the hem of this dress. Part of me wants to paint it the same color as her sleeves. But I'm a little worried that that's too bright on the hem of a black dress. Like I don't want to draw too much attention to the hem of her dress. Like right now, like her bottom half is mostly the darker color. So when you look at the model, your attention is definitely grabbed to her upper body. And I'm worried that if I do purple along the hem of her dress, that it's gonna create some like visual pull to the bottom of the model, and I don't know that I want that. So I'm a little stumped. The same color as the sleeves? They're very similar, yeah. All right. My wife is kind of a color guru. She worked for over a decade, or about a decade, for Sherwin-Williams doing color consultations and helping customers pick colors, and she just has an incredible eye for that. And now she has her own business doing that, as well as staging people's homes for resale. So every so often I go to her and when I'm completely flummoxed on a color, she always gives really great advice, so I'm going to follow it. Can you hear me? You what? Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think everybody's been hearing me all night. You also go through speakers from your laptop that sits closed like 4 feet away from you, so. Sorry guys, I don't mean to have side conversations on stream. Yeah, see, that was more what I was thinking, Heath, but I'll give it a try. Give what Alyssa's saying a try. So you know what the best part about this is, though, is if we do it and it looks terrible, we can always paint over it because it's just paint. So we don't have to let ourselves get completely paralyzed in indecision. Just paint it, just try it out. If you don't like it, strip it or paint it back. Oh well, now you're going back and you're changing your mind. So I don't know if you noticed what I just did there. I put the heavy body acrylic white on my palette to do this last step. And there's a couple reasons why it's good to have this stuff around. First of all, it tends to be the brightest white that you can get, which makes it good for doing like metallic reflections. Because it just shows up and just shines ever so slightly more than most other white paint. It's also thicker, which if you're trying to do something with just one little touch, one little dab of paint, then you want to make sure that it's covering whatever is below it without having to go back and do multiple passes. So the more opaque, heavy body works better for that. Paint on or spray on minis. I'm not totally sure what you mean by that. Like primer? You talking about primer? So I much prefer spraying on my primer. I use rattle can, what they call, where you shake it up. It's got the little metal ball in it, and then you just spray. I use that for priming miniatures up until I don't know, maybe about 6 months ago. In which case, I finally got brave enough to bust out the airbrush I bought a couple years ago. I bought it and then I just was always kind of just, I don't know, scared's not really the right word, but I just never bothered to get it out and then actually learn how to use it. So I finally forced myself to do that about 6 months ago. So now I actually spray through the airbrush. I don't really like globbing paint on a miniature, and usually have to do a couple coats, so it's just not that fun. When I have a paintbrush in my hand, I like to be doing detail work and doing fun stuff. Globbing primer on a model is not that fun for me. I also think that putting it through the airbrush or spraying it on with the rattle can, if you know what you're doing and you're careful, just gives you a more consistent, smooth finish to your primer. Which I prefer. But sometimes I'll brush on primer if it's just like a little piece, or if I drop a model. Sometimes I've dropped models while I'm working on them and things chip. So having the primer there to brush on is really, really handy to help fix little areas, but I generally prefer spraying it. It's kind of a pain to bust out the airbrush if it's just one model or something, but I still do it. It takes a little more time with all the cleaning and things if you're not doing a bunch of models, but yeah. But again, most of painting is a personal preference thing when it comes to questions like that, especially. So I'm certainly not going to fault anybody who likes to brush it on. Wow, that 2 hours went fast. I'll keep painting on stream here for a couple more minutes in case there's any last questions or anything like that. Again, I think I might try to stream again tomorrow night for a couple hours. Probably around the same time. Well, starting 6 or 7 my time. So that would be 8 or 9 Eastern time. And hopefully tonight, before I go to bed, I will have her completely done and have quite a start on this guy. Maybe get everything except his flames completely done tonight. But I really appreciate everybody who showed up tonight on stream and took a chance to say hi. I'll explain later about the so funny. Is there a special primer for the airbrush, or do you water down what you have? Yeah, so Badger makes a brand of primer. I'll try to remember to put it on camera the next time you're on the stream. I do not know how it's pronounced. It's spelled something like STYN, and it's got an R and a Z somewhere in there. I don't know, Stinelraz, Stirlzine, something like that. But it's made by Badger, and they have a whole bunch of different colors. They've got obviously black, white, and gray. They've got some like a yellowish khaki, it's got kind of an olive color, like a red brown. We've got lots of different neat primer colors. And those shoot almost perfectly just out through the airbrush. Like you don't really have to do anything. I just add a little bit of flow improver and a little drop of the slow dry. But other than that, like they just go really well right out of the airbrush. I'm still a pretty noob when it comes to using my airbrush. I don't really have down, adjusting my needle sizes and air pressures and stuff for all different things. I kind of just stuck on one needle size and one air pressure that seems to work for priming. And what I really like to do is try it for varnishing, because I would like to do the gloss varnishing through my airbrush and then use dull coat out of the rattle can to finish them off, using the gloss varnish from Vallejo that I have. I'd really like to do that because the gloss varnish that I use out of the rattle can is very, very thick. And so with really small models like this, I'm always worried about the stuff like really getting down into a crevice and then having too much of it there when it dries, and it kind of creates a fogginess down in the cracks. So I'm really paranoid with smaller models of using that rattle can stuff. So it'd be nice if I can start using my airbrush for that, but I have not yet. I might grab a couple old crappy models out of my cabinet and just do some test models, because I would really like to maybe with these use that. But anyway, cool. All right, I will end it there for tonight and hopefully see some of you guys either tomorrow night or Sunday. But thanks for stopping by. Take care.